We're at WrestleMania 41 and we kick off the first night in style with the World Heavyweight Championship match between main event Jey Uso and the reigning champ Gunther. And the match starts off hot as Jey instantly takes Gunther to the outside before connecting two humongous dives back to back. But before he can connect the third, Donington manages to floor the Yeet Man with a vicious lariat. Although Jey survives, which is something he has to do more and more throughout the contest. And he's succeeding at this. Yes, he isn't thriving, as he's still being dominated by the champion. But no matter what is thrown at him, Jey just won't budge. Gunther even manages to connect a powerbomb, although Jey, just like always, kicks out at 2. Donington looks for another, yet Jey's able to counter before nailing him with a spear out of nowhere. But Gunther won't go down that easily, so Jey continues to fight as he nails whatever he can muster in a last-ditch effort to overthrow the King of the Ring winner. And this even includes a big-time splash, although Gunther kicks out again, so Jey looks for another, but Gunther attempts to block him with a suplex off the top rope, although Jey blocks his blockage by sending Gunther down and connecting one more splash. And with that, the biggest show of the year kicks off in a heartwarming manner. Jey Uso has gotten his WrestleMania moment. But up next, Charlotte Flair is looking to cause heartbreak by being the one to dethrone Tiffany Stratton. And she attempts to do this through targeting Tiffany's legs. It's a genius move by Charlotte, as with this, Tiffy can't hit any of her big moves without a mighty struggle. And this allows Charlotte to control a majority of the contest, with every hope spot being plunged in the darkness by the Queen. But as she looks for figure 8, Tiffany manages to counter, and with all the strength she can muster, Stratton plants her for an Alabama slam, yet the Queen kicks out. So Tiffy goes to the corner, but she hesitates to hit the prettiest moonsault ever because of her leg. And that slight distraction may cost Tiffy everything, as Charlotte manages to get out of harm's way before taking her down and locking in the figure 8. Tiffany is done, but she can't tap, yet Charlotte too refuses to give up as she lets go of the hold and subsequently locks for a natural selection, although Tiffy counters, and as one last ditch effort to take down the Queen, she nails a humongous springboard swanton bomb. And from here, Tiffy, with the willpower of a Green Lantern, descends into Charlotte with the prettiest moonsault ever. Tiffany has done it! She has toppled the final boss of the women's division, and with blood pouring down her skull, she marinates in it and celebrates her biggest win of her career. But what's next for the champ? Well, before we find out, it's time to find out who's the most badass member of the SmackDown roster, as it's time for Damian Priest to take on Drew McIntyre, and this very quickly devolves into a straight up fight, as both men just swing at each other with reckless abandon, and they end up hurling one another into anything and everything: the steel steps, the announcer's table, hell even the ring post. The match has effectively turned into both men's personal war zone, yet Drew is starting to overwhelm Damian as he completely slaughters him in the corner, and from here, he signals for a Claymore, but Priest is able to counter. Then he looks for a heaven chokeslam, although Drew counters that. And with the former El Campeon days, Drew is able to nail a Future Shock DDT, yet Priest kicks out. So Drew goes into the corner, calls for Damian to get up, and he manages to connect a Claymore. But he wants more, so he nails another. And with a third Claymore, Drew McIntyre picks up the win. It wasn't pretty, but the Scottish Warrior got the job done. And this will more than likely be a similar case in the highly personal match between bitter rivals Jade Cargill and Naomi. And as soon as the bell rings, Naomi almost instantaneously rolls out of the ring, yet Cargill gives chase, and this ends horrifically for Naomi as she gets hurled into the barricade with enough brute force that will make 4 grin. And Cargill doesn't let up as she starts to redecorate the announcer's table, but this small distraction allows for Naomi to hurl herself at Cargill before nailing her with a huge suplex onto the concrete floor that rocks Jade to her core. And Naomi of course takes full advantage of this, yet she can't put Cargill away, so she looks for split-legged moonsault, although Cargill catches her and plants her into the center of the ring, and this seemingly turns the tide of the match completely in Cargill's favour as she starts pounding Naomi into the canvas. However, as she looks for a big running strike, Naomi dodges, which ends up with Cargill inadvertently clocking the referee, and this allows for Naomi to get a chair, yet before she can use the weapon, no none other than Bianca Belair comes out of nowhere and takes the chair away from her. Bianca wants this to be a fair fight, although if Naomi distracted by this, Jade takes full advantage as she manages to plant Naomi with Jaded, and with the referee back up and Bianca unsure she made the right decision involving herself in this match, Jade Cargill picks up the win. She remains undefeated at WrestleMania just like Bianca Belair. Although once the dust settles, with Jade barely acknowledging Bianca, along with her distraught Naomi dragging her beaten body to the back, it's time for the humongous Women's Triple Threat WrestleMania match between Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and the Women's World Champion Io Sky. And with the talent involved, there's no surprise that it's arguably the match of the night, or in fact, match of the year. All three women's chemistries with one another is off the charts, but no one seemingly has the advantage, and this continues with each pinfall attempt crawling closer and closer to a 3. Although in the dying stages of the contest, Io Sky just can't avoid the brutality any longer, as after missing a picture-perfect moonsault, she gets nailed by an avalanche riptide by Rhea Ripley. Yet before she can go into the cover, Bianca Belair comes out of nowhere and manages to plant Rhea with a KOD, and with that, Bianca Belair pins Mami to pick up the win and more importantly become the Women's World Champion. And on top of all that, her WrestleMania win streak lives, even though her path as champion is seemingly crystal clear. Although up next is a match that was changed last minute due to Kevin Owens' neck injury, as just like at WrestleMania 38 with Seth Rollins, the Viper is holding an open challenge. But who will answer the call? Well, after an eternal wait, we finally get our answer. The former Malachi, now Aleister Black, is back. This is going to be a tough hill for Randy to climb and overcome, and the match goes in a similar fashion to this, as Aleister decimates Randy with perfectly precise strikes, and even though he tries to connect an RKO, the key word is try, as he fails and gets taken down by more lethal strikes, yet Black can't keep Orton down, as he continues to stick in the match, even if he seemingly stands no chance, although all it takes is one lucky shot to turn a tide of battle, which occurs when Orton does, in fact, manage to connect the RKO, but that doesn't do it, so he decides to dish out something he was going to give to KO, as he goes into the corner and lines up the returning star for a punt, although Black is able to counter, and from here, he manages to nail a Black Mass. But he wants more, as he calls for the Viper to get up using his own foot, and with another Black Mass, Randy Orton is put down. It's one hell of a way to make a return. The statement has been made. And Rey Mysterio is looking to make a similar statement after the continuous disrespect El Grande Americano has shown Lucha Libre, and more in particular, what he's done to the LWO, although the man who comes out isn't quite who he expects. Chad Gable is here, and he's holding the mask of the persona of El Grande Americano. Believe it or not, Chad Gable was El Grande Americano all this time, but Ray just doesn't give a damn, as he launches himself at the leader of American Made before the match can even begin, and with this brings utter madness, as the LWO and the Creed brothers do battle on the ramp. Though the difference maker is Ivy Nile, as American Made are managing to overwhelm their opposition, yet that doesn't last long, as Zelina Vega comes out of nowhere to equal the odds, and with this, both teams end up rolling to the back aside from Rey Mysterio and Chad Gable. As thanks to the referee creating some much needed separation between the pair, the match can officially begin, and it's just as vicious as the brawling that preceded it, as both men fight all across ringside, although this turns technical rather quickly after Ray is caught and planted down with a vicious powerbomb. Gable is in control, but he can't maintain it for long as Ray begins to fight back. It's a heavily back and forth contest, and this culminates with a phenomenal closing sequence, which starts with Ray attempting a 619, but Gable is able to grab his legs, though Ray pushes back, yet as he goes after Chad, he gets launched into the air and planted with a beautiful German suplex, although Chad doesn't let go, as he perfectly transitions through before pushing Ray into the corner and connecting a Chaos Theory, and with that, Gable picks up the win. It may be the biggest win of his entire career, But now it's time for the Night 1 main event, as it's do or die for CM Punk, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins as they battle it out in what turns out to be yet another phenomenal triple threat match. The hatred between all three men is on full display, but Punk starts to overwhelm his opposition, which forces the two former Shield members to team up temporarily to take out Punk, as they manage to nail a Shield powerbomb which almost breaks the announcer's table. But with it not being broken, this gives Seth Rollins an idea, as he hurls the OTC into the steps before redecorating the table, although he can't manage to put the Tribal Chief through it, as Roman fights back, then is able to plant Rollins through it. The Visionary is out, but Roman wants to ensure his victory, as he sends Punk into the ring before going into the corner. He wants one final spear, but then Paul Heyman trips him up. Was this a part of the favour, or did he do it out of his own free will? Well, before we find out, CM Punk is able to take full advantage of this, as he's able to nail GDS onto Roman Reigns to pick up the win. As with this win, he gets everything he's ever wanted. He's made event WrestleMania and won. He beat the Tribal Chief and the Revolutionary in one go, and he did it all alongside Paul Heyman. And this makes Roman and Seth irate, although as the OTC is on his way to the back, he gets interrupted by someone electrifying.
If you smell what
The Rock is here, but why? Well, we find out very quickly, as with the Tribal Chief staring a hole through the final boss, The Rock comes up to him and unbelievably nails a rock bottom onto Reigns. The message has been sent loud and clear, along with another. It's one hell of a way to close Night 1 of WrestleMania 41. But the opening of Night 2 is pure unhinged chaos, as 5 teams compete in a massive World Tag Team Championship ladder match. Although with bodies being broken in half left, right and centre, the match eventually comes down to 2 teams during battle, as if Lost Guards and Motor City Machine Guns and the Street Profits started out. All that remains is the former Tag Team Champions DIY and Pretty Deadly. It's a full circle moment, and even though they try their best, DIY failed to become 3-time World Tag Team Champions, as Johnny Gargano gets knocked off the ladder, with Ciampa similarly being disposed of. And with that, we have new champions. Pretty Deadly get their moment in the sun. They are finally at the top of the SmackDown Tag Team division. But what's next? Well, as order is being restored after the anarchy that was just caused, we see none other than Ludwig Kaiser. He's outright demanding for a match, and even though Adam Pearce is furious, he decides to give Kaiser his wish, only because his opponent is a just punishment in itself. Rusev is back, and today marks a very special day, as today is Rusev Day, and Ludwig surprisingly actually taunts at the former Miro, and this mistake costs him dearly, as he gets completely slaughtered by the returning star, and in the end, after a completely lopsided war, Rusev makes Ludwig Kaiser tap at the accolade. It's one hell of a way to make a return to WWE, but how the hell do we follow this? Well, it's time for a grudge match, as AJ Styles is looking to end the Maverick Logan Paul and ensure his twilight of his career isn't ruined by a celebrity. But can AJ Styles actually manage to overcome Logan Paul? Well, even though AJ is ready to fight, Logan clearly isn't, as he tries to run away and dodge the phenomenal one, although this turns out to be his plan, as once he gets into the ring, he manages to take down Styles with a vicious boot. But even with that, Logan can't hold control over the match for too long, as Styles quickly fights back with a series of strikes, and to follow suit, he decks Paul with a Pele kick, which almost sends him to a different dimension. Although as Styles looks for a phenomenal forearm, Paul manages to move out of harm's way, as he then looks for one lucky punch, but Styles counters that, and with Paul stranded in the middle of the ring with the phenomenal one, AJ decides to par one of his best shots, as he manages to connect the Styles clash. But to add insult to injury, Styles waits and waits until he finally connects a phenomenal forearm before going into the cover and picking up the win. Everyone is elated at this. No one wanted to see Logan Paul pick up the win, and on this night, he most certainly didn't. But can Zelina Vega repeat Pretty Deadly's feat early in the night and become a new champion? Well, to do that, she has to overcome the longest reigning and greatest Women's United States Champion of all time, Chelsea Green. And thanks to Michin and B-Fab disposing of the secret Hervis of Alba Fire and Piper Niven, the match is a pure one-on-one affair. Yet the match is anything but pure, which doesn't make things much easier for Zelina Vega, as Chelsea's able to weasel away throughout the contest. And that is what allows Chelsea to wear down Zelina more and more. But she just can't seem to connect the unprettier, nor can she keep Zelina down for the free. And due to the fact that she isn't able to put the nail in the coffin of the match, her challenger starts to gain back control. And from here, it's elementary. As of a series of offense culminating in a code red, Zelina Vega is able to win her first singles title in WWE. It's yet another wholesome moment on the grandest stage. But who will hold the Intercontinental Championship by the end of the night? Will it be Braun Breaker? Will it be Penta? Will it be Dominic Mysterio? Or will it be Finn Balor? Well, the match is on, and of course, the Judgment Day work together, and due to their constant numbers advantage, they manage to control a majority of the contest. But the other members of the match don't take the beating lying down, as they give it their all, which leads to Penta being able to take Dominic Mysterio out on the outside. But just as fast, after smashing Braun with a steel chair, Finn Balor nails a bloody Sunday on the concrete floor on the man with zero fear. Penta is out, and it's Balor's opportunity to strike, as he nails a shotgun dropkick on a Braun Breaker before going to the top rope and nailing a coup de grace. Yet he can't capitalise, as Dominic Mysterio sends Balor to the outside before stealing the pin and the win. Balor is furious, although as he's buried the new champ, we see Dom Dom finally turn on the Prince as he nails a nutshot onto Balor before celebrating his victory with his fellow Judgment Day members. The Prince has been exiled. But can Lyra Valkyria and Bayley exile a Judgment Day, and more in particular, dethrone Women's Tag Team Champions Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez? Well, even though the babyfaces are determined, the heels' experience together as a tag team is what overwhelms them throughout. But that determination pushes the Women's Intercontinental Champion and the role model to fight back, as it's even looking like they could topple the Judgment Day. Yet as this looks possible, with Raquel Rodriguez distracting the referee, Roxanne Perez decides to reignite her hatred for Bayley as she goes after the role model once again as she nails a pop rocks onto the concrete floor. The role model is out, and due to the numbers game heavily against the Bird Lady, even though she tries her best, it's just not enough to dethrone the Judgment Day, as in the end, Liv Morgan manages to plant in oblivion to pick up the win and retain for her team. But they aren't satisfied with just the win, as Liv and Raquel continue beating down the Women's Intercontinental Champion. She needs help, and help does indeed arrive. Becky Lynch is back in WWE, and she's here to handle business as she goes straight after Raquel Rodriguez, and more in particular Liv Morgan, as she manages to run both of them off. Then we see a hell of a tantalizing confrontation between the Bird Lady and the Irish Lass Kicker, although Big Time Bex decides to break the ice as she unbelievably nails a manhandle slam on the Women's Intercontinental Champion. She's seemingly coming after all the gold, aside from the United States Championship, as that is left to Jacob Fatu to attempt to overthrow, dethrone and conquer LA Knight. But defeating the megastar is no easy task. He didn't become a two-time United States champion for nothing. Though this is Jacob Fatu, he's an entirely different beast. He's an entirely different animal to anyone else in the company. And this is evident when Knight manages to connect the BFT for only a 1 count. The champ is shook, yet he knows he needs more to keep Fatu down, so he looks for another blunt force trauma, although Jacob catches him, spins him around, then plants him down with a vicious DDT. But Knight too won't stay down without a fight, although he's getting completely overwhelmed by the bigger and stronger challenger, and he just can't handle it, as in the end, he gets nailed by not one, but 2 humongous moonsaults, which keep him down for the free. We have a new champion! Jacob Fatu has captured his first title in WWE, and Tawatonga is congratulating him on the ramp, while Solo Sikoa is nowhere to be seen. Although before we get to the finale of WrestleMania 41, it's time to see who will walk out of Vegas as WWE Tag Team Champions. Will it be the New Day or will it be the War Raiders? Well, with both teams' undeniable chemistry, the match is even throughout. When New Day has the speed, War Raiders bring the strength. When New Day bring the agility, War Raiders bring their own and then some. They're so evenly matched, but what turns out to be the key difference maker is mentality. As with the War Raiders' professionalism, comes the New Day's Weasley strategies, which includes cheating. As with Xavier Woods distracting the referee just like the previous match, Kofi Kingston grabs a chair and smashes it into both Eric and Ivar. It's a disgraceful act by the once pure New Day, and with both members of the former Viking experience laid out, the New Day pick up the pieces. As with the Midnight Hour, we see new tag team champions. For the 13th time, New Day hold tag gold. But now, it's time for the main event of the evening, as it's time for a god to take on a titan. It's time for the future to take on the past. It's time for Cody Rhodes to take on John Cena. But before the match can even begin, we see another appearance from the final boss as he comes out to stand by the side of John Cena. The odds are well and truly stacked against Cody Rhodes, but just like John Cena once did, he never gives up as he fights through whatever this new corporation has in store for him, although the numbers game starts to take its toll on the American Nightmare, which includes when Solo Sikoa comes out of nowhere and spikes Cody Rhodes. He still isn't done with the champ after all this time, and just like at WrestleMania 40, The Rock forces the referee to not call for a DQ. Although before Solo can do any more damage, Jacob Fatu comes out to start to argue with his Timu tribal chief. Friction is growing, the new bloodline is seemingly on the way out, until Solo decides to put a nail in the coffin with another Samoan spike. But that doesn't keep Jacob Fatu down, so the final boss gets involved even more, as he then nails a rock bottom of the United States champion, with him then heading into the ring. And with this alongside the final boss's political power, Cena is able to grab a chair and beat it into Rhodes over and over and over again with no DQ in sight. It's looking hopeless for the champ, but before The Rock can lay a hand on the American Nightmare, Roman Reigns comes out to attempt to even the odds. Although as he looks to even enter the ring and potentially go after The Rock, he gets stopped by something or someone rather all too familiar. Seth Rollins has aligned with the final boss, and he signifies his turn by nailing a stomp onto his former ally. And now Cody is all alone, almost knocked out once again. Although The Rock, Cena and Rollins get interrupted by someone the final boss has a lot of history with. Stone Cold is here, and he's got stunners for everyone. As with him raising hell and leaving, the match resumes to a fair one-on-one contest. Or so you think, as Cena disgustingly nails a low blow on the Luria American Nightmare, with the referee still afraid to call for the DQ. And this act of desperation is what ultimately allows for him to nail an AA on the Rhodes. But that doesn't do the trick. Cena is horrified, although his veteran instinct kicks in, as he immediately follows up the near fall with an STFU. Cody has nowhere to go, but he refuses to tap. He won't give up on his dream, yet his fever dream turns into a nightmare. As with the submission getting tighter and tighter, Cody Rhodes passes out. John Cena has won number 17. He is now the kingpin of WWE. Who the hell can stop him? Well, we're just gonna have to wait and see. As if you like this video, I think this might interest you.